Alright, greetings from the COVID bed, from quarantine. I did this video already, so I'm not happy or in a great mood, on top of feeling tired, to have to redo this. So I'm just going to make it a lot quicker than the video was previously. So, Saw 7, 2010, I don't know how to say this guy's name. Gertrude? It's not Gertrude, I know that. It's something like that. But he's returning to do Saw 10, which I'm happy to hear that because at least with his directing, I'm hoping that it'll kind of have the feel and the look of these first 7 films in the series because Jigsaw does look and feel a lot different than these first 7 movies. And especially Spiral is like its own little thing. So having this guy return who directed this one and the previous installment, 6, gives me hopes that it'll have like a similar feel to the first 7 movies because they really feel like their own little contained thing, the first 7. So let's talk Saw 7 or Saw 3D, the final chapter, which don't you love that in so many movies, the final chapter. At least this series waited like 7 years before we got Jigsaw. Friday the 13th the next year. It was like, oh, we're back. So, and there's so many franchises that do that. So let's watch again and talk again about Saw 7. So we have at the beginning here, we see Dr. Gordon from right after the events of the first movie crawling out of the bathroom with his chopped off foot and starts cauterizing it on one of the steam pipes. And about the 3D, I don't really remember like what was in 3D in this movie, and like I don't have vivid memories of seeing this particular version, like this film, this entry in the franchise in theaters. I'm just gonna guess that it's just a bunch of body parts and guts and stuff thrown at the camera. And I'm pretty sure I'm not far off on that. So I'm sure I can tell like as I watch this. So I'll keep you updated on the 3D shit. But yeah, we get to see Dr. Gordon, which, spoiler alert, I mean, obviously, all my videos are spoilers for the most part. We find out at the end of this that Gordon was helping John the entire time. Like, pretty much like right after he survived his trap and cut his foot off. Then John took him in as another disciple of his. There are 2 people with him, like for that reveal at the end of the movie here, in pig masks also. I don't know who they are or what that's about. Like maybe they were planning for a sequel to like go down the whole like cult of Jigsaw type thing and have like a whole bunch of people working for him and carrying on his legacy. Hell, I mean maybe that's what they're going to do with Saw 10. Like who knows? But as we stand here with the 9 films, I still don't know what that means. Like who those 2 people are at the end with Dr. Gordon. So if anyone has any theories on that, let me know. Alright, now off the bat how stupid this is. It cuts after we see Dr. Gordon cauterizing his wound. Cuts to the middle of the city, which I've said this in a few of these videos. I don't know if they ever say what city all the Jigsaw killings are taking place in, but I know it's a city. I mean, you could tell very obviously here that we're in the middle of a city somewhere. And there's a big ass glass showcase with 2 guys with power saws, table saws in front of each of them, and a woman that's like hanging above them in constraints or restraints. Fuck you, whatever. I'm not worrying about the second time doing this. And they have 2 people walk up, like 2 kids walk up to the showcase. Kind of like those are supposed to be the first people who like notice this giant ass glass showcase box in the middle of the city with 2 unconscious guys inside of it. But right then and there, it's like nobody noticed that before these kids were filmed in the movie, like going up to it. That makes no sense. But not one person calls the cops. Like one person does. I take that back. One Asian woman does, and her Asian friend takes her briefcase and tries to like break the glass, and it's the lightest briefcase ever, and nothing's breaking that glass. Are you serious? So Besides that, no one calls the cops. And it goes on for like a good 4 or 5 minutes, this trap, before the actual cops actually arrive there, all in a straight line, like rushing for this place. And it's, of course, it's like 2 minutes left on the timer, so like they can't save the girl, but they have to basically choose which one of them is going to die for this girl that's been playing both of them. And then in the end, they just decide, fuck it. I mean, does she deserve to die? Of course not. But, like, she deserves something. But find the middle ground. Let me know something better. Because all I can think of is sawing her in half. Because that's exactly what happens here. They just start fighting each other. And then I love how, like, this just really shows how your true colors and feelings for someone's going to come out if you're faced with, like, death. Like, 100%. They all just start fighting with each other, and the girl saying to one of the guys she's been banging, like, no, whatever his name is, like, I love you, kill him, kill him. Dude, it's like total free-for-all with all their thoughts and stuff and feelings just come flying out. Then, good for the two guys. They come together in the end, and they're like, you know what, we're going to let one of us die because this bitch who's been playing both of us? Like, fuck it. Then I love his line of like, I think we're about to break up with you, or we're breaking up with you, something like that. Then they push the saw in the middle, and she gets lowered, and her fucking like insides just start ripping apart by the saw. Then yeah, blood and guts and stuff, 3D thrown at the screen. But cool opening kill. Although I don't understand why. I can understand why, but there's two ways to this. If Hoffman is the one who set this trap up, it can either go in his favor or it can go and work against him. Because Perez, in the last movie, right when he stabbed her a bunch of times that she was dying, and Hoffman asked her who else knows about him, she said everybody. Now, she obviously could have just been bluffing just to make him paranoid and maybe he'll screw up just from his paranoia. Or she could have been telling the truth. But I feel like if he was telling the truth, then we would have heard about it a lot sooner in this movie. Like, they would have been all over Hoffman a lot faster. Because the only reason they even get Hoffman's name is because of Jill. You know, John's wife. Or ex-wife, whatever they are. And so, doing the trap in broad daylight like this, in the middle of the city for like so many people could see, it could either be in his favor, because it could be a big distraction away from, you know, and take a lot of police and stuff that have to go and block off this crime scene and investigate it and everything and give him some time to like like get everything he needs and like get to his little safe house and just start planning for the future of whatever future he has left, which is not that long. It's about an hour and 37 minutes or so from the start of this. Or it could work against him. Like I said, if people did know who he is and Perez wasn't bluffing, then it's just going to point right to him like a lot quicker. So I don't know why the whole decision to do this in broad daylight in the middle of a city like this, unless it's Dr. Gordon who set it up. But I don't believe we ever get an answer for that. So if anyone has a theory, leave it in the COMMENTS box below. It also really says a lot about society today, man. Like, everybody in the crowd that crowds around this kill take out their phones and are recording it. Like, almost everybody. There's the one Asian bitch that I said who tries calling the police, and the other one who tries breaking it with a briefcase. Besides that, everyone's either just like, or they're filming it on their phones. Two people with table saws in front of them, power saws, and a girl hanging from above with a power saw beneath her. What do they expect is going to happen in the end? And they're still filming all of this. Like, oh God, I hate people. And is this motherfucker laughing? Yo, I swear. I'm not looking at the timestamp because I passed it. If you really want to see this, look for the opening kill from Saw 7 on YouTube. Right after the girl starts getting the power saw through her stomach, there's like an Indian guy in the crowd right after the cops start like making their line through to get there. And there's an Indian dude or whatever he is who looks like he's cracking up laughing. Like I'm sure it was just an extra on set, and like he was like, "Wow, that's crazy how they're pulling this off" or something like that. But like, make sure like editors, like, and I've said so many times how hellacious it must be to edit a Saw movie with all those fast cuts that we see so often, especially like with the reveals and stuff. It's got to be such a pain in the ass to edit these movies. But nobody noticed that. Like that would have been something to like make sure you get out of there. Like you don't want some person cracking up while this woman's being hacksawed apart. Like Jesus, man, I saw that, I busted out laughing. But then again, I just said I busted out laughing, so maybe maybe he has the same sense of humor as me. For some reason, the version that I have downloaded, the title card says Saw 7 3D, El Capitalo Finale. The rest of it's in English and everything, so I don't get it. Alright, so then we get the recap from the end of Saw 6, which is awesome, as I said in that video, but, and it still looks awesome. Like, every time I see that ending, and I see Hoffman, because this time you see it from Jill's perspective, and she's like waiting outside the door after she puts the reverse bear trap on him, and then she didn't think he'd do it either. Like, he shoves his the machine in the bars and then it goes off, but it doesn't work because it's stuck in the conveniently spaced bars, like I said last time. And as soon as she sees that, she goes running, man. Like she runs so fast because she knows if she just tried ripping this guy's face apart. She knows if he gets to her, she is a dead woman of epic proportions, which is basically what this whole movie could have been subtitled as like The Hunt for Jill October, like, or something like that. Because this whole movie is basically Mark Hoffman's journey to find and kill Jill. His whole motive in here. Now he's just furious, and now he just wants Jill just to rip her head apart. And oh, it's so satisfying when that happens, though. But we get that. It looks so good, though. Still, like how his mouth and the skin is flapping off of it because it kind of went off, and he had to pull it off his head and stuff. And then he has to sew himself back up. Like, oh, that's got to be so painful. You imagine like sewing your skin back together, like right around your lips, and like, that just does not seem good. Like, sure, like everything in this whole series doesn't seem good, like to happen to you. But something about like having your mouth ripped apart like that and then having to sew it back together. Yeah, dude, I don't know, man. And then yeah, Jill goes right to Eternal Affairs to whatever his name, Gibson, Agent Gibson, and because she says, I don't trust the FBI, I don't trust homicide, like she knows better because both of those were infiltrated by Jigsaw people. So she's like, I want Eternal Affairs, and Gibson comes in and she's all ready to name drop. She name drops Hoffman. She says that I got a whole bunch of evidence and stuff. I just need you to keep me safe and I want immunity, complete immunity. And he's like, yeah, I'm willing to sign that deal with you. Of course he would, because he'd be the person to bring Jigsaw's accomplice in finally. And he just goes on a manhunt for Hoffman throughout the rest of this movie. It's another reason I hate when a video fucks up, is because then if I'm redoing it like I am now, I'm not going to remember if I said something from this video, like that I'm doing right now, or the one that messed up right before this. So I'm going to be like, wait, did I say this in this video? Who cares? But I know I didn't say this yet. But Gibson, I like his character in this. Like, I like his whole little demeanor. I like his whole history that we find out a little later with Hoffman and kind of why he jumps on the opportunity to be the one to take Hoffman in. All of that. He's a cool character. Like, not that I don't like Agent Strom, but he's like very, very hot-headed. I mean, even Perez says it in the last in the episode. It feels like episodes with these movies because of how amazing the story is like seamless as you go through it. But in the last movie, I'm pretty sure it was said that like Strom was very hot-headed, and he is. Even though I love that character and I love their whole cat and mouse game that they played for 2 movies, but Something about Gibson here, I really like his character in this movie. I kind of wish it wasn't just one movie that he was in. Like, this is the only one we get him in, and he doesn't last that long. So, good to have him while we have him, though. So then we have the main dude of this movie, Bobby Dagan, or Deegan, who knows. I realize I say that with like any name I can't pronounce or don't remember. Whatever. People don't have names, it doesn't matter. But he's going on a little book tour that he has a book that he wrote, Survive, claiming to be a survivor of one of Jigsaw's traps. And he was not. He was never taken by Jigsaw, never survived a trap, which is so messed up, man, to do that. Like, to write a book, especially towards the people who did survive. And then we see in a little bit, like, there's actually, like, an AA group, pretty much is what it is, for Jigsaw survivors. Like, a Jigsaw survival group. And they all meet up and share their stories. And I'll get into that when we pass that scene. But he's going on a talk show to support his little tour of his, and like going around for book signings and stuff like that. And I like how he mentions what he wrote in the book, his trap that he survived, that he had to put two hooks through his pectoral muscles and like lift himself up and everything. And great poetic justice that at the end, that's literally what he has to do at the end of this movie, is what he wrote in his book. So awesome stuff with that. And then Jill walks outside of the police station and sees the little tricycle that Billy the Puppet goes on in the most obvious dream sequence ever. Because then she gets taken, and then she's chained up like this, like in some mechanism, and Hoffman's there, and he's like, you know what's wrong? The only thing wrong with killing you, Jill, is that I only get to do it once, and then lets this like blade go flying at her and cuts her in half, and then the other half of her splits the other way, and then 3D blood and guts go flying at you again. Like, that's pretty much all the 3D in this movie. It's just blood and guts flying at you in 3D. Then we get this first trap here, which, well, not first, besides the opening one, but awesome. This trap is so cool and looks so good. Like, it might be one of my favorite traps in the whole series. Like, it looks so fucking good. When you have like some skinhead gang and the guy wakes up and he hears the tape play off the audio cassette, and he has a minute, and he's like glued to the seat. He has no shirt on. He's glued to the seat, and he has to pull himself forward and like ripping the skin off of him to pull some lever or something like that. And he never gets to, so I don't know exactly what that was supposed to do. But he ends up, just the way that the skin is ripping off of his back and sticking to the seat, it looks so good. And at the same time, his girlfriend is under the rear tire, like right, her face is here and the tire's right up here, and there's chains that are attached to another dude's arms and his jaw, and when he fails to do whatever, pull the lever that he has to pull, and the timer goes down to 0, the car starts speeding up, and then it just drops on the girl's head, and her face gets destroyed, and fucking it looks so good. Like, what a great tire head smash that is. It looks so great, the effects on that. Then the car just takes off, and it rips the dude's arm and bottom of his face off, and then plows through another guy. Then the car hits a parked car because it's in like a junkyard. And then the main dude in the front seat, who was glued to the seat, goes ejected from the front seat through the windshield. Awesome. Like, what an awesome kill. The effects look great. So cool. Like I said, might be one of my, in the top 3 in the series for me, for the traps. Yeah, so then we see Jigsaw AA. We see the black chick from the beginning of the last movie who had to hack her arm off and put it in the scale to beat the fat dude and put the most amount of flesh. So she's back for a little cameo here. And she has a great line too, because then this other black chick starts telling her story, which we've never seen this trap or her or anything about this person. And that goes for like most of the people in this group. So I don't know where all these people came from. Or if, like, has Jigsaw been doing other traps all over the place that we're not aware of, or are they making it up? Are they there like a oh, what am I thinking of? Like the narrator from Fight Club who just goes to meetings and like cancer meetings and when he doesn't have cancer and stuff just to help with insomnia, like anything like that, because none of these people except for three I can point out. There's the from the last movie, the son and wife of some guy who Eastman's insurance policy killed. The wife is there. The black chick who hacked her arm off, and the junkie from the fifth movie. That's it. And there's like 15 people at least in this room. So I don't know where they all came from. And the other black chick that I was saying, we have a flashback that we get to see her trap, and she's like hanging on something with a bunch of fans underneath her, and there's another guy, and then the guy falls into the fans, and like his body explodes into blood and guts. 3D, by the way. And we never saw that shit. When did that happen? Like, was it maybe they put all those people in there if they wanted to make like an entry in between the sixth and seventh movies or something? I don't know, but I call bullshit. There should be like four people in this friggin' survivor group because there's not many survivors throughout this whole series. There really isn't, and definitely not enough to fill up the room here. And then we have the main dude, Bobby, who's touring with his book. And at first, when I rewatched this, I wasn't sure if he started these meetings, because that's even double fucked up on his part. To write a book pretending to be a survivor, Jigsaw, and then start AA meeting type things for survivors of Jigsaw, and he really didn't do anything. He was never in a trap. Oh man, that would be so fucked up. But he did write the book, so he's still messed up on that part. But he does have his friend tells him. Oh no, he tells his friend that whatchamacallit, Dr. Gordon has been going to these meetings longer than he has. So these were a thing before Bobby and his book and all that. So when I heard that, I was like, phew, all right. He's still a fucking son of a bitch for making all this up. But at least he didn't start this whole AA Jigsaw group, because that would be so egregiously terrible of him. Oh, and the black chick's line that she says when the one who cut her arm off, which I started that whole last bit on and never got around to it, is what she says, like, the best thing that happened to me since I had to cut off my damn arm was getting handicap parking spots at the damn mall. Love that. Yo, and then this guy, Bobby, he has the balls to open his shirt and show his tiny little scars that aren't from hooks through them, from surviving a trap, in front of that woman who had to hack her entire arm off. I don't know, man. Like, I was saying that Eastman in the last one, the insurance dude, might deserve being in a game the most. This guy, this guy might be right up there, if not tops it. Like, he deserves something. Like, maybe not to die again, but he deserves to go through like most of a game and then be saved at the end or some shit. Because, oh, what a terrible human being. And then Dr. Gordon shows up. Well, he's in the back of the room, but he shows up on, in the movie, even though he's been there this whole time, just to make his little dramatic entrance, and he starts standing up, and he has a little cane that he walks with now, because he doesn't have a fucking foot. Like, he has a fake one. So, I mean, Jigsaw's great with making fake appendages. And he actually, like, mocks Bobby, a little bit by saying, like, I think I speak for everyone to say that we're so grateful to be part of your promotional DVD, and then starts clapping, and it takes everyone else so long before they start clapping too. Like, it takes a good 10 seconds from when he starts clapping like this. 10 seconds of that, maybe 8. I don't know, too over exaggerate, but around 8 seconds or more before the rest of the room joins in and starts clapping too. It seems like they just start clapping because they don't know what else to do. Like, do we start clapping too? Yeah, just go with it. That's what it seems like. But good to see Dr. Gordon again. Like, throughout this whole movie. I mean, he's not in it much at all, but good to see him in this whole movie. The parts that he's in. Fuck you. Gibson is at the morgue, and there's this body that is mangled, like no head or top half or bottom half. It's just it's just like a fucking abdomen on the table. And he goes to the mortician. He's like, "What happened to him?" And I just had the thought of just the mortician just said, "Oh, him? He died." I don't know, just something I thought of. And then Gibson gets a call in from the junkyard where the last awesomely sick trap was with the car, and he ends up going there. And then they're taking some of the bodies away, and including the guy that's missing his mouth and arms that got ripped away from him. That's so awesome, man. That trap is so great. And then he gets like the reverse bear trap that's left there for him from Hoffman, and he's like, all right, we got to get fingerprints off of that and everything. So he goes and collects that, and then he goes and talks to Jill again. But then we see Bobby wake up in the warehouse, like everyone in this series wakes up in, and he's in a cage, and then he gets his tape play and basically said that you calling him out saying you were never in one of my traps and now you are and you gotta go through a rebirth and all this shit. And they have his wife Joyce, and she's like has like a chain around her neck in one of the rooms that he'll get to eventually, like the last room. And I remember every time that a test that he goes through, because he has to go through a series of tests, and every time he fails, then the chain around her neck like pulls her down a little bit, and she has no idea why she's there, and she believes him 100%, her husband Bobby, that she's been supporting him this whole time, like through his book tour and through, I'm sure, them hundreds of times they've probably talked about what he went through being in a jigsaw trap. Oh, can you imagine that, having that big of a lie from your significant other, saying that you survived almost dying in a maniac's trap, this crazy serial killer, and it never happened? Ooh, man, I mean, people get divorced for much less shit than this. Like, oh, this is the end for them. Like, not in that way. They don't get divorced. Like, they don't have the chance to. But unfortunately, doesn't go well either way. Then we see a little flashback that shows where exactly Bobby came up with the idea to do this, to like lie about his story. And he's at a bar with, I don't know if that's his friend or just some dude at the bar, and he's watching the TV at the bar. And again, some survivor that we've never seen or heard from. I don't know where all these people just come out of the woodwork that all were in other games we never got to see. Show me those games. And she starts saying that she's grateful for what happened to her and that she's a lot stronger because of it. And we heard someone say this in the meeting, like a little bit ago in the Jigsaw AA meeting, that she's grateful for it too. And they sound like John. Like they sound like Jigsaw's, like his whole theory and like whole legacy that he's trying to create here. They sound like it's working. Like it sounds like it's working for some people. These are two people now in one movie that both said that they're grateful for what happened and they're stronger for what happened. And I don't know, maybe it's just insanity. Like maybe these people were crazy to begin with. But I don't see being grateful for that. Like I could never see being grateful for thrown in one of these freaking traps and almost dying, or having to kill somebody else to live, or anything like this. Maybe it's something you don't know until you try. But I'm not willing to go into a jigsaw trap anytime soon. And then the guy that he's sitting next to at the bar says like, yeah, and if they weren't so fucked up, they'd be able to sell their stories for a pretty penny or something like that. And that's what sparks his mind of, oh, I'll just make up a story and say that I was in one of these traps and I'll sell it and make some money. Dirtbag. And John and Hoffman and Amanda, they all leave a lot to chance, man. Like when Bobby, after he got his tape read, and I said he was in a cage, the cage, like the bottom drops out of it, and there's a whole bunch of spikes on the floor. And when it drops, like he holds on to the cage, and he has to swing back and forth to like clear the spikes and jump. What if the guy's a fucking moron. What if what if the bottom fell? He wasn't ready to grab on. He just fell onto the spikes and splat. He's dead. Like, they leave so much to chance, man. Like, they are so lucky that everything always goes perfectly according to plan in every game in this whole series. Because he could have just splat right onto those spikes, and the game would have been over, like, right then and there. So when I rewatched this for the first take of this video, I said to myself, because that they had the scene, the dream sequence that Jill had about getting killed by Hoffman, and I said, there's no way, ever, that she would not be put in a safe house. That she's just chilling in her bedroom after going to Gibson in Eternal Affairs and name-dropping Hoffman. They don't have her in a safe house, because I couldn't remember a lot of this movie, because it's not one that I throw on too often. And I was like, there's no way. Like, that is batshit insane if she's not in a safe house. Then they cut to this scene here, and she is in a safe house. It just looks like a nice little hotel room. And I said, all right, that makes me feel better, because that would have been egregiously stupid if she wasn't in a safe house. And then Gibson comes and he's arguing with Jill because he found the reverse bear trap and it had her fingerprints all over it, and he's like, you didn't tell me when you were fearful of your life from Hoffman it was because you tried killing him. And then she starts saying, I want to make sure I'm safe here, and he starts saying, safe house, this is a safe house, meaning it's safe, do you get it? And then a second later, like, some other detective comes down and says, like, Gibson, we got a DVD to this location addressed to Jill. So, it's not too safe after all. And the DVD basically is just Hoffman saying to Gibson that I'll stop the game if you give me Jill. You know, no one else has to die, or you can keep Jill and everyone's going to die and it's all going to be your fault. Which also, Gibson asked Jill before they played the tape, said another game started, does that surprise you? And she says no. So, again, that goes back to my really only question that wasn't answered with this movie, is who started this trap? Oh no, wait, I did get a little bit of an answer. But, like, John does have a link with Bobby, the main dude here. So they show a flashback of that. But who carries this out is the question I still don't have an answer for. Is it Hoffman or is it Dr. Gordon? I can't imagine it being Hoffman setting this whole trap up after whatever amount of time, like, from the last movie, which it seems to have started right where the last movie left off, when he had the reverse bear trap almost go off. Yeah, it did start right from there, because then he's sewing his mouth up and stuff after that. So it's right after that. So I'm left to think that it's just Dr. Gordon. But did he set up this whole trap? I mean, they show near the end with the flashbacks of everything that he did and played a part in, like, helping John all these years, or whatever the time frame is, that he was doing mostly all, like, the setup for the traps, and, like, especially the ones that needed, like, a medical trained professional to do. It didn't seem like he was, like, the major legwork or anything like that, like Hoffman was. So it's either Hoffman or Gordon, but if it's Hoffman, I don't know when he had the time, unless he set all this up right after he set the trap from the last game up, or the game from the last entry up. Yeah, see, I can't fucking think, man. The game from the last movie up, maybe he started that one and planned that, then did this one and planned it also, so that way they would be able to seamlessly go, like, one after the other. That's the only thing I can think of without it being Dr. Gordon responsible for it. So if anyone has a theory on that, who started this game and set it up, let me know. And then after seeing that DVD, Gibson says to take Jill to lock up at the station and don't let anybody in or out without his permission. And then back at the junkyard where the cool car trap happened, a big-ass explosion goes off, which we don't find out why until a little later. Alright, then Bobby gets to his first test here in the game, and it's his publicist, and she's strapped to like this device, like in a straitjacket, and like there's these four like blades that are like pointed at like four locations on her neck, and she has a fishing hook with a key attached to undo the device in her stomach, and he has to pull out the fishing hook with the key out from her stomach. And the catch is there's a friggin' decibel counter that records how high the frequencies are of her screams, and if it gets above a certain decibel, then the spikes will go in even quicker. So she has to be as quiet as can be as he yanks a fucking fish hook out of her stomach. Dude, come on, man. Like, these are so unfair. Like, Hoffman's traps are so unfair. Like, they're just designed to die. Like, there's no escape for these people. And he gets it out, and I love, like, he's trying to pull it out, and it goes for a while. The wire that he's pulling out, like the fishing line, like, he just, it's like, dun 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 dun, like, for mad long. So, like, that was deep in there. But he's yelling at her, and like you see the decibel counter go up, and he like covers her mouth, and he's like, shut the fuck up. Like, dude, you're ripping through her insides with a fishing hook. Like, of course she's going to be screaming. And then the timer goes down, and she dies, and things come in and just pierce her through her neck, and looks all right. Looks pretty good. Like, it's not a great kill or anything like that, but it gets the job done. And then I like how after she's dead, again, like Bobby's like saying, all you have to do is shut the fuck up. All you have to do is be quiet. Yeah, like during all that. So this is where we get our little flashback of how John ties into all this and why he left instructions to whoever set this up, not getting back into that, to how he knew this guy, Bobby. And when Bobby was signing books somewhere, his stupid made up story, then John came across and saw him, and he obviously knows that this guy was never in any of his traps. So he got a autograph, a signature on a copy of his book from Bobby, and had like a little tiny little speech with him on saying about like how how John loves history, and how like in ancient Egypt they would say like if you're lying on like in court, like if you're not telling the truth, and be cast to the quarries and stuff, trying to like imply that he's a lying sack of shit, but he had no idea who John was at the time. So that's the link between them. So John left instructions for either Hoffman or Gordon to make a game for this guy because he lied about this. I mean, I feel like the whole thing with the insurance companies and everything from the last movie is a much better final game for John. Like, so much better, because that was the most personal. Like, he basically, like, threw him to the wolves and, like, didn't let John go get his experimental surgery and stuff that probably wouldn't have saved his life, but who knows? Like, maybe it could have. That was, like, the perfect last game for Kramer, for John Kramer to do. I can't just say Kramer, because then I think of Kramer from Seinfeld. I gotta either say John Kramer or John or Jigsaw. Can't you? So don't ever let me say fucking just Kramer again, because that's weird. John, that was the most personal one to him. That would have been perfect for the last one in like this little stretch of movies. Do this one before that, and then make the sixth movie trap this one. But like going from that being so personal to John to this just being about some dude who's lying about being in a trap, I don't know. Like it's fine. Like the game is fine. I just feel like the order's wrong. You know what I mean? Like this should have been the last one. Then this one should have been all about Eastman and the insurance companies and stuff like that, and going after that guy. They should have swapped them. But of course, they just wrote them year to year. They didn't have this all pre-planned, which always blows my mind because of how amazing this whole series, the story that goes through it, seamlessly almost. Like it addresses almost everything. Like if you watch from the first to the seventh movie and beyond, like I don't want to keep leaving off Jigsaw. Spiral is its own little thing, and I don't really care for it that much anyway, which I can't wait to rewatch that because I think I've only seen it twice. Maybe even once. No, I've seen it twice. I remember I've seen it twice. But didn't care for it both times. So that'll be interesting to rewatch Spiral for the third time and see how if it grew on me at all, which I don't think it will. But who knows? I always hope that a movie will if I watch it again, and hopefully I always want it to grow on me. But I keep feeling like I'm leaving Jigsaw out, but that's just because it came 7 years after this movie, and before this we were getting them yearly, so maybe that's why. And it does have a distinct feel to it. I mean, it is like kind of a prequel ish, so like that could be a reason too. But the first seven here are its own little story, and the story is just seamlessly perfect, like throughout all of it. Like everything is addressed. By the end of this movie, everything makes sense. Like there's only maybe a few lingering questions, like here and there, and that's it. Like pretty much everything gets addressed and is finished, and with a nice little bow on it by the end of this movie, which I adore this series so much. So then Bobby gets to his second test, which is his lawyer, and I like how the Billy the puppet, how there's a cage that crashes through the window, and Billy the puppet is chilling in the cage. That's a cool little touch. Like Billy the puppet knows how to make an entrance. He fucking slams through that window and scares the shit out of both of them. Like Jesus, man. Like I think they're scared enough. I also like the whole little theme of see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil throughout the three tests here. Like with the publicist, it was hear no evil, and then with the lawyer here, see no evil, and next or speak no evil, and the next one is see no evil. But she's tied to a little table, and then there's like this mechanism that's kind of like this, like two spikes for her eyes and one for her mouth, and it's just gonna go into, just gonna penetrate her. Happy Valentine's Day to those people out there who have a Valentine, and he has to like use this like he has to like lift up on weights and every time like to stop it from like moving into her face, and when every time he lifts up on it, like these little like these spikes like go into his ribs like on the side of him, so he has to go through pain while holding it up to stop her from dying, which of course he doesn't do, and she ends up getting it right in the face. Happy Valentine's Day again. It looks good, like that kill, but like I noticed the first shot, like with the spikes going through her eyes and mouth, it shoots it really, really quick of it going into her eyes, and then it goes away, shoots to something else, and then shoots back to her. On the very first initial shot, it looks not too good, man. Like it's CGI, and it just doesn't look good. Like the penetration part. Happy Valentine's Day. But that doesn't look good. After it cuts back to it, and the blood's all coming down and stuff, that looks great. But that one little shot there, just the CGI just does not look good there. So she's dead. So then Detective Gibson gives a picture of Bobby to Jill, and she's now in lockup in the station, and asks if she knows him. And she says that she's seen him on TV before, but she doesn't know who he is. So I'm assuming that's bullshit. Like she definitely knows who it is, but she's not going to say it. So he leaves, and then he gets an email. Well, the precinct gets an email from Hoffman, and he plays that, and Gibson watches that, and even Hoffman is starting to get all riddly with his clues and stuff like that. So he ends up saying to Hoffman, oh, what the hell is this stupid thing that he says? Oh, he's like, look past the crossroads to the clear dawn. And then we kind of find out what that means a little later. Then Bobby gets to the third test here, and I love this guy's line here. This his best friend, and he has like goggles on or something that makes him blind, like they're blocking his vision completely. And this is like the see no evil test. And they're on like the second floor or third floor of this building, but there's just planks on the floor in this room, and he has to guide his friend like, all right, put your right foot over here to this spot. All right, good. You're on the plank. Now walk forward, like through these planks, through the room, without falling to his death, because he has a device on the back of his neck, and if he falls or if the timer runs out, then he's just gonna get hung. And I love his opening line here because he says like whatever the guy's name is, he's Bobby's like, do you know where Joyce is? His wife. He's like, no, dude, I can't fucking see. How do I know where Joyce is? That's so funny, man. What a great line by him. Great greeting from the best friend. Great final words, too. He ends up, they're doing good at first. And he's like giving them instructions to his best friend, like, all right, you're on the plank, now just walk straight, yep, and feel it out in front of you, you're good, just keep walking, just keep walking. And then it's going to be a turn ahead, and blah, blah, blah. Great. But then the timer starts getting lower and lower, and then Bobby, like the floor breaks or something, and he jumps like to another plank, and then he grabs the key, and then he says to his friend, he's like, yo, just put your hands, cup them together, and put them as close to your body as possible. And he throws the key, and it bounces like right here and falls to the ground. Oh, God, could you imagine? Could you imagine being just having it right above your hands, and it pings off the top of your chest and falls away? Oh God, that's got to be the worst. And then he has his final words are, "Fuck me." That he gets choked and hung up from the ceiling and stuff like that. Oh, what funny last lines! Like the way he says it is "fuck me," like so funny. But again, he's dead. So here we find out where this whole grudge between Hoffman and Gibson started, and Gibson and whatever other detective end up going to this location because Gibson noticed in the videos that Hoffman's been sending that there's like this angel statue behind Hoffman, which we find out he's purposely keeping in the background there. And he tells the detective that's with him that when he was in uniform, Gibson, he got a distress call to this location, and it used to be called Crossroads, so it ties into his whole little clue riddle that Hoffman said earlier, the crossroads to the clear dawn. And he got assaulted by this homeless dude because it used to be like a crack house where junkies and homeless people used to hang out. And this guy hits him in the head with a bottle, Gibson, and then pulls his gun on him. And then Hoffman comes and tells him to drop it. And then he just shoots this homeless guy like dead, like in cold blood. And he says like, "You owe me one." And Gibson, being the good cop that he is and not a crooked one like Hoffman, ended up having to pretty much rat him out and just tell exactly what happened, and reported Hoffman for brutality. And he ended up transferring to Internal Affairs, and then he ended up busting 3 of Hoffman's guys, and then he said that he'll get him back for that. And this whole situation is him getting him back. And the only thing that's the biggest on my mind is this angel statue is still here after whatever amount of time this is. No junkie or crackhead or homeless person ever tried taking that and hawking it for money. That might be the most ridiculous shit in this entire movie. And then he figures out where the game's being played, because he ends up saying, all right, Crossroads, the clear dawn, and it all comes to him so quickly. And he remembers this information about this one fucking homeless dude who was shot dead in front of him, that he was released from Clear Dawn mental institution or whatever, and it's been abandoned for years, and that's where the game is being played. So off they go to find the game. So like I said earlier, every time that he fails one of the tests and one of those people dies, Bobby's wife, Joyce, who has the chain around her neck, pulls her down a little bit more, so now like she's down on her hands and knees. Happy Valentine's Day. And Bobby is like outside of the room, but he has to pull 2 of his teeth out first to find the 2 numbers that he's got to punch into the door to be able to open it, and they're etched onto 2 of his teeth. And Hoffman's at least nice enough to put a dental what's the word I'm looking for, dental chart with like the teeth and stuff that tells you which teeth to pull out. So at least he's nice enough to extend him that courtesy. And oh, it's still got to be hard, man, to take pliers and to pull out 2 of your teeth and to make sure you got the right ones. Like, that's got to be really hard. And in the meantime, Gibson tells the detective that was with him, tells him, stay with Jill Tuck and make sure Nothing happens to her. Make sure she does not leave your sight. So we see how good that's going to end up. And wouldn't you know it, unlike in Saw 2, the cops here actually find where the game's being played. They get there, and it is that asylum that Gibson was talking about. And they get through the beginning of it, and they see the lawyer dead, and then they find the girl who got it in the face. Happy Valentine's Day. Then Gibson gets a call saying to go back. He ends up going back to the junkyard. And then he gets a revelation. Bobby's got both his teeth out, and he's got the combination of two numbers. Or are there two numbers on each tooth? I don't know a combination with two numbers. But whatever. He gets the door open, is my point. And then he gets in and starts, and he sees his wife on all fours with the chain around her neck. And she has no idea what's going on. And he has to explain to her. And while in this predicament, and under such duress and fear, has to say, baby, like, I lied to you. I was never in a trap before. And then imagine the thoughts dawning down on her brain, being like, oh my God, the whole reason we're in this situation is because you fucking lied, and now they want to put you in one for real. Like, oh, I couldn't imagine that. Like, I couldn't. I might have just killed myself right there if I was Bobby, instead of having to deal with that conversation. No, like, but I wouldn't write a book pretending to be a survivor of a trap when I wasn't. So I would never be in this situation. So it should come as no surprise that Bobby's last and final test here that he has to do is the same one that he lied about doing in his book. And he has to take these two hooks and hook them through his breasts. Happy Valentine's Day. Hook it through his hook him through his pectoral muscles, and then he has to like shimmy his way up, and he has to take an extension cord and put it together and plug them in together. That's it. That's all he has to do. And there's like an electrified fence around where Joyce, his wife, is. He stumbles into it when he first gets there. I guess it's just so he doesn't unchain her or try to unchain her. But that's there. And so he has to start doing what he wrote about. If he wrote it, walk the walk. Start doing it. All right, so then Gibson gets back to the junkyard with like two other detectives or police officers. They're in plain clothes. I mean, like police issue, fuck you. Police uniforms. That's the word I'm looking for. Uniforms. Police uniforms. So they're just regular uniformed cops, and he's there. So there's like 3 or 4 of them, and they find what they think is Hoffman, because there's like computers and like other shit that relates to the Jigsaw case, and he goes and kicks the body over, and it's just the dude's corpse from the car awesome trap from earlier, who got his face ripped off and his arms ripped off. So he ended up switching that body out, and then we find out that that big explosion from the junkyard, Hoffman triggered to get everybody out there so he can get that body and prop it up in there. And basically he tapped into the police security cameras and everything, and he's been watching them the entire time. So he knows everything that the police have been doing this whole time. And then while Gibson is about to make a phone call to the police department, telling him the woman there to get all available units back there, Hoffman pulled a Walter White season finale of Breaking Bad before there even was a Walter White season finale in Breaking Bad, when has this friggin' machine, like automated fucking rifle, machine gun, whatever the hell it is, high-powered machinery, comes up and just starts just mowing down everybody, and Gibson is killed, and so is the rest of the cops there. It sucks, man, that Gibson had to end this way. Like I said, I like his character a lot. And I feel like he could have brought more to this series in some way. I don't know how, like right here on the spot, but he's a cool character, and I like the actor who plays him. I'm not sure who he is. I can't remember his name, but I know I've seen him before. So Gibson is dead. And then we find out, and this was what was driving me nuts with the last movie. Because in the last movie, I was telling myself, and on video, that I'm pretty sure that Hoffman ends up like killing like the entire police station, like Michael Myers in Part 4 of Halloween. That he like just completely annihilates everyone at the police station, and it never happened in the movie, in the last Saw movie. So I was like, wait, am I going insane? Like, did this never happen? Like, there's no way. And then when I rewatched this it finally happened, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I thought I was losing my mind. And we're about to get to that part. It's awesome, man. Like, he ends up, Hoffman switched out that body with the, so he can get into a body bag and be taken to the morgue to get himself inside the department, into the station. Then he just starts killing everyone, like every cop there. And the Hoffman is inside the body bag, and the mortician opens the bag, and it's Hoffman, and he stabs him right in the neck. Hoffman loves stabbing people on the neck. Like, mortician, right to the neck. Go to the next one. Next cop, right to the neck. Goes to the next one. Right to the... Oh, like, out of like the 6, 7 cops that he kills, 5 of them get stuck in the neck with this big ass knife he has. Like, he adores this shit. And I mean, he did the same thing with Erickson in the last one when they were descrambling his voice. And that's when I thought that this whole police assault took place. I thought that right after that, when he was getting out of like that room, he was going to start killing cops left and right, and then it didn't happen. I was like, what the hell's going on? Like, I remember him like completely annihilating the police department. It's here in this one, and it's so awesome. Like, what a great scene that is. Meanwhile, Bobby has the hooks in his pectorals, and he's halfway up. He's almost up the top there, so he can take those extension cords and plug them together. What they do, I don't know. Like, do they de-electrify the fence? That doesn't even make sense. So I don't know what they're supposed to do. Forgot what the tape said. But then we go back to Hoffman, and has like 2 cops left between him and Jill, and he stabs the other one in the neck. He takes his gun out. Then, like, you have, like, the one-way mirror, like, for interrogations and shit. So Hoffman could see through it. The cop that's right in front of the cell with Jill, it's a mirror for him. So he just cocks his gun and he points it, and then the guy turns around and he just shoots that cop right through the glass, right through the eye, and then it's just him and Jill is freaking out. She is screaming at the top of her lungs. There is no one to help her because they're all dead. And then everyone loves stabbing people in the neck in this movie, because then Jill takes like something like a pencil or something that was like in the cell with her, and she stabs Hoffman in the neck when he comes in and says like, I've been looking for you. So everyone loves stabbing each other in the neck in this movie, and then she starts running for her life as far as she can really go. Bobby is so close. He has the extension cords in hand, hanging from his muscles, and he goes to plug them in, and the hooks just rip out. And he falls all the way to the ground. And the look of horror on his wife's face. It's heartbreaking, man. Especially knowing what's about to happen to her. And then Hoffman finds Jill, who's just hiding in a corner, like in one of the rooms in the police station, and they start scuffling with each other, and he takes her face, and he just starts pounding her repeatedly on the desk. Happy Valentine's Day. Man, it sucks what happens to the wife, man. As soon as the timer goes to 0, which it was only at like, I don't know, 15, 20 seconds when he fell and the hooks ripped out of him, the platform she's on, just like the sides come up, then the front part comes up, and it's kind of shaped like a pig's nose, which makes sense with like the pig mask they always wear, and it's basically a furnace, and it just ignites on fire, and she just starts burning and cooking alive in there, and it's heartbreaking, man. This girl did nothing wrong, like at all. She did nothing wrong, and she has to die because of this prick. because her husband made up this whole lie about being in a trap before. He doesn't have to make up a lie now. He can write a second book, but it's not going to bring his wife back, which is sad. And it looks great, like the makeup on her, because they show like a shot in there, like near the end, like where her hair's all gone and her whole body's just toast. Oh man, it sucks. Like it really sucks that that had to happen to her. And then Hoffman's going to town on Jill. He knocked her out when he was pounding her on the desk, hitting her face on the desk over and over again. And then he straps her into the chair, and then he gets his favorite. We never got to see it go off and actually kill someone in this whole series, the reverse bear trap. Almost saw it go off with Hoffman and ripped his mouth apart when he pulled himself out of it. And then this in the movie, the final chapter, which we know is bullshit now, but we finally get to see it go off, and oh, it looks so good. And then the few seconds before Jill's face is ripped apart by the reverse bear trap, kind of cool how the and again, like I said earlier, like how it is to edit these movies, man, especially near the climaxes like this. I can't imagine how long it must take, but you basically see like her life flash before her eyes. Like you see like clips of John and clips of her with John, and then like the name Gideon on the tombstone, and then like, all of that. And then it finally counts down, and it just rips her face apart, and it's just a hole in the middle of it, and her head falls down. It looks fantastic. Like it looks so good. The effects on that kill right there. There's just a big hole in the center of her face with the machinery like up and below it. Love it. Looks so good with the awesome main score playing and stuff leading up to that. Phenomenally awesome. And Hoffman gets in his obligatory game over before he shuts the door to the. They're in the police stations. It doesn't have the same effect as like the big ass doors, but he gets to say it again. And then this is where we get our big reveal that Hoffman goes to his little hideout, whatever, and he starts dousing everything with gasoline and lights a match, and he walks out, and then the place blows up, and 3D blow up stuff at you. Oh, and with Jill's face, reverse bear trap, bleh, fucking 3D blood and guts at you. So pretty much remembered exactly what all the 3D was. It's just 3D blood and guts all at you, like I thought at the very beginning, with a tad bit of building explosion at you. And I don't know why I have to keep doing this every time I say that, but he leaves and it explodes, and then the three people in the pig masks show up, and then the one in the middle sticks Hoffman with like a sedative or whatever to knock him out, and he takes his mask off, and it's Dr. Gordon. And then we see a flashback of Jill dropping an envelope into his office, and then we see Dr. Gordon looking at it and watching the video, and it's John on it, and him saying that he's probably his most valuable asset. And then we see flashbacks of all the past traps, not all of them, but a decent amount of like the guy with the key behind his eye that he had to just cut his eye out to get the key. We see Gordon setting that all up and putting the key behind it. The one with the lawyer at the beginning with his mouth stitched together versus the guy with his eye stitched together. We see Gordon stitching up his eyes. So all the medical stuff, we find out that Dr. Gordon has been responsible with helping Jigsaw with this entire time. So pretty much right after he was saved by Jigsaw after he cut his ankle off. And we see John giving him water and stuff, and then helping him with make a fake appendage, fake leg for him. So he's been on the Jigsaw payroll since like right after the first movie. What a great ending, man! And then basically he's watching the rest of John's tape, Dr. Gordon, and he says to Dr. Gordon in the tape that I've shown you a lot of places, and of all of them, I think one will be the most meaningful to you. And said, if anything ever happens to Jill, I want you to act on my behalf and act immediately. And we know that Hoffman just killed Jill, and it was all over the news when he was like putting the gasoline on his little hideout. So it was already pretty much public knowledge. But I'm sure Gordon was watching him and stuff like that. And Hoffman wakes up in the bathroom, chained to the pipe, just like in the first movie with Adam. And Gordon's there, and just the whole way that they wrapped this up for the first 7 movies. That's why this is like the further you go with a series and the more entries you make, you're bound to just get shittier like as it goes on, like, or at least just have a bad entry. If they would have just ended at 7 right here, this would be a perfect series for me. Like near or almost perfect. Like besides from some nitpicks here and there. The way that they end this with Hoffman chained up in the same bathroom that the whole series in the first movie started off with in that same bathroom with the kick-ass main score playing and all of that is brilliant. Like absolutely brilliant. And Gordon he sees his old foot like, but as a skeleton now, like it's rotted away so bad, it's just a skeleton foot. And you could see they make a note of taking a quick shot of him looking at it, so he can like, I don't know, go through his memories, I guess, and remember how meaningful this place is to him. And Hoffman tries to reach for one of the saws on the ground, and Gordon picks it up. He's like, I don't think so. And then he flings it right at the camera, just like that, because 3D saw spinning through the air as it gets into the hallway. And then Hoffman's just screaming with this awesome score fucking radiating through the headphones. I love the score to this so much. If anyone hasn't seen, it's at the beginning of this Saw playlist. I did a cover on guitar of the Saw theme. God, I love that theme so much. And I remember being in the theater every single year watching these movies, and every single time at the end of these movies when the beginning of that theme would come on, that's when like everyone knew, like, oh shit, like shit's getting real, we're about to find out stuff we didn't know before. Awesome. And then he just says like, what are you doing, you can't do this to me. And then Gordon just gets to have his final way, gets to have his turn to be the one to say game over, and he slams the door, and Hoffman's fate is, I guess he just starves to death and dies in there. What a phenomenal first 7 movies, man. And like I said, if they just kept it at this was the end, like really the final chapter, and I said I do like Jigsaw like a decent amount, but then as I was saying a little bit ago, the further you go with the series, you're gonna get one that is not great or not good even, or just plain sucks. For me, these 7 are great, like excellent. Like there's like peaks and valleys, sure, but like when you watch them all 7, and this hasn't even been back to back, it's been throughout a month or so, but I have sat down and watched them, like the first 3 one night, and the next 3 the next night, and like the final this one like the night after that. It really just is, it's an experience, man, like watching all 7 of them just back to back to back to back like that, and just seeing all the reveals and the twists and turns and stuff. Like they handled it so amazingly well for a series that started with just 1 movie, and that's it. Like there was no story ahead of that first film. They didn't have anything planned. The second movie was, even the script started out as a completely different movie, and they ended up turning it into a Saw movie by tweaking and rewriting it and stuff. You would not think that going back and watching all 7 of these back to back. You would think that all of this was planned from movie 1 to movie 7, the whole time, that this was one long story, and they do a phenomenal job at that. But Spiral is that movie for me that just I don't like. Like it's fine, but it's nowhere near even Jigsaw, which is nowhere near these 7 for me. So they should have left it here, unless they do something great with part 10. But like I said, shouldn't have even had to go to part 10. It should have just ended right here. And I think that's the greatest discipline, like with any type of artist, like of any type. Like Seinfeld, I talk about all the time, is one of my favorite sitcom. It's my favorite sitcom. It's one of my favorite comedy shows of all time. Jerry knew when to call it quits. They offered him like $10 million or like something crazy like that to give like a 10th season, and he turned it down. He's like, no, no, I'm good. Like, I'd rather go out on top. That's the way to go. Go out on top. So, happy Valentine's Day. It's actually the day after now, but it was yesterday, and when I recorded this, and the first 18 minutes of audio did not record for some reason, and then kicked in. So I'm pissed about that. But I said, all right, I got to redo this, and I'll just keep with the Valentine's Day theme. So, you've all been duped. It was yesterday that was Valentine's Day. But I hope you all had a great Valentine's Day, and thank you everybody for the get well wishes. I am feeling definitely a hell of a lot better. Still a decent amount of fatigue, but it's getting better. So that's why I had my little come hang in the sack with a COVID infested JT for this video. And yeah, wherever you guys are from, hope you're having a great morning, noon, or night. And I will talk to you all soon. Take care, guys.